I'm running to continue my progressive leadership in the Massachusetts House of Representatives, and proudly representing the people of Brookline, fighting for the values. I'm a lawyer, although I don't practice now. Husband, the father, and grandfather. Prior to being elected in the House of Representatives, I served on the Brookline School Committee for 8 years as the vice chair. And prior to that, I was elected commissioner of the Brookline Housing Authority for 8 years as the chair. I have made my home in Brookline since 1978. And I married my wife Julie here in 1981, and raising my 2 daughters here. They attended both school and graduated from Brookline High. I'm a progressive Democrat, and I currently serve as the chair of the House Committee on Global Warming and Climate Change. And prior to that, I was a committee chairman of the Environment, Natural Resources, and Agriculture. I have been a chair of a committee for 8 of my 14 years that I've been in the legislature. I've had many accomplishments. I'm not going to have time here to talk all about that. But I authored and passed landmark environmental laws as the House Chairman of the Joint Committee on the Environment. Bills including Global Warming Solutions Act, the Green Communities Act, the Massachusetts Oceans Act, and Mercury Management Act. I've worked hard in education, children, and elder issues. I applied for and helped deliver additional state funding for, and now I have to stop.
Okay. Racing right along. We'll turn please have no applause from the audience. The reason being that we're being televised tonight and we need to be able to hear the speakers. So we really want to hear the voices of the speakers, and we can applaud for them at the end of the evening, but please don't do that in the middle so that we can be heard on the broadcast of the show. And we'll turn to Kurt Myers.
Thank you very much. Before I get started, I just want to give Ms. Margaret Bush thank you and I want to thank the League of Women Voters, the greater community, for all the great work that they do advocating for our active participation in our democracy, and of course for hosting our forum today.
Oh, there, start.
So my name is Kurt Myers, and I'm the Republican candidate to represent Brookline in the State House in Norfolk's 15th District. The good news about this race is I truly believe that Brookline has 2 options in front of you who are generally here for the same reason. I think, I know that Representative Spisak and I, we both want the best education for our students. We both want true.
Yes, we'll give you another go around to talk about the issues.
Sure. Like I said, so
Talk about your own political activity.
Sure. So I've been in Brookline since I was 7 years old. I've been here, all my salient memories as a kid growing up have been in Brookline. And this community has given a whole lot to me. And when I decided that I wanted to get involved in this race, I couldn't be prouder to stand on the values that I stand on. And I think that's similar to what people in Brookline share with me. And I look forward to tonight discussing with you all the pertinent issues that you bring up. And I look forward to the issues that we really care about.
All right, we're going to turn for just a quick second round to Frank and ask you to talk about the issues that currently are of greatest interest to you in the state legislature.
Well, I am the chair of the Committee on Global Warming and Climate Change, so that takes up most of my experience in the legislature now. Last year, we passed a very important solar energy bill that took the cap off, which was on, which allowed more solar energy to be in our state, and that means good for those solar energy people and good for the environment and good for the fact that we will have more energy and more money. I also care about education, and I will continually, as I always have done, ask and try to push for more education money. We don't fund the education as much as I think we should. 4 years ago, or 5 years ago, we cut the budget by $4 million. $1 trillion. Sorry. And that's a lot of money, and we're beginning to make up that money because the money is coming in because of a better economy. But there's still a lot of groups and departments in the government that don't have enough money, that don't have enough people. We saw that with DCF and the children, but there weren't enough people in the agency to help them. And there are other agencies like that too. So I will work to get enough people in all of our agencies so they can do the job that they want to do. And we should do.
Sure. I focus most of my campaign on the issue of education. I think the most important role that government does, and especially on the state level and on a local level, is to provide quality education to every student, in our case, in the Commonwealth. I think there are too few choices for parents in our state in areas where they really need more options. You know, I'm proud to be from Massachusetts, where we have some of the highest rated public schools in the country, but we have done no better than the national average in terms of the achievement gap for minority students. I think that's a true problem that we need to address on the state level. I think that begins with school choice. I think we need to have we need to give parents the opportunity to decide where is the best place to send their kid. And I think there are too few opportunities, like I said, and I think we need to lift the cap off of charter schools to allow new, innovative schools to allow parents to make the decision on where their students can go.
All right, we're going to begin with the first set of questions that we're going to ask the candidates. And I'd like to begin with the subject of campaign financing. The National League of Women Voters, the state, and the local league have all embraced a position on campaign finance reform. I'd like to read just the brief statement from the National League, which goes as follows. Campaign finance. Improve methods of financing political campaigns in order to ensure the public's right to know, combat corruption, and undue influence, enable candidates to compete more equitably for public office, and promote citizen participation in the political process. So I'm going to begin on this one with Kurt and ask the following question. Talk about, for us, what changes would you like to see in the laws governing the financing of campaigns?
Sure. Am I allowed to address independent expenditures in this? Okay. So I think the greatest problem that we face in campaign finance reform is the issue of transparency. I think too frequently we see advertisements or statements being made that can't really be traced back to an individual or an individual group. And I applaud the measures Massachusetts took in this past or since Citizens United in the Supreme Court passed upon, which requires all super PAC or independent expenditures to list the 5 largest financial contributors to their PAC at the end of their advertisement. And I think we need to go a step further in this. I think the super PACs and independent expenditures need to be held to the same standards as campaigns do. I think any citizen should be able to go online to something similar to either the FEC or the OCPF and look at just who is giving money to these groups. I think that is the best way for us to see what are the motivations behind these advertisements, or whichever handle they're pushing out, or better yet, see who exactly these people are, seeing if they're, in our case, within the state, and if they really have the best interest of the public in mind.
Right. And Frank Snyder on campaign financing.
Well, I think our country is really being hurt by the fact that there were so many tax that are related to wealthy people, wealthy business people, and they are spending millions and millions of dollars trying to defeat people who are progressive, people who don't want, for instance, to get of coal and oil, and they want to have those to continue as part of our business. One of the, I had a bill that would push wind energy, and the Koch brothers did a lot of spending, giving money to stop wind energy from being put on land in Massachusetts. And we lost. We did not have enough money and support as they PACs did, and it's not good. We know who the PACs are. We know who they are, because they do have to report something. They know they have to report money, essentially, but maybe they don't know the people. We know the people, and they admit it. There was also, this year in this election, there was a terrible document that was put out saying a lot of bad things about members. Luckily, I wasn't in that. I didn't receive that. But what it did was lie. It was all lies. So we got to stop people who lie.
Okay. The league at all levels has expressed concern about the wise use of natural resources. And of course, today we hear a whole lot about environmental issues and about climate control. And Frank Smisek will go first. Just talking about what do you think needs most to happen in the state of Massachusetts currently regarding those issues of climate and environment?
Yes, in 2008, we passed several laws. And one of the laws was that we have to reduce emissions of danger in our society. And what we decided is that we would have to reach the goal of 25% which is 25% of the year 1995, because that was the time we had a lot of emissions. So that is being a goal now by the administration. They're moving forward. I'm not sure they're going to make it, but that's one of the real goals that we have to do. We have to cut emissions. Two, we have to prepare for people being forced out of their homes along the shores. And that's in the North Shore, it's very important, and all of the coast in Massachusetts and down to Florida are in danger of losing housing, of flooding, and it's gonna be worse unless we do something to address some of the problems that people will have. Insurance is not enough. The insurance is very expensive, and some people can't pay it. 2, 3, the fact this is an economy issue. That all these businesses and other people's homes, they're going to be costs to society for that. And the cost is that going to have to be paid by the government. And it's something that we have to look out for. Third, it's a health care issue. The emissions make the air, especially around here, believe it or not, very dirty. We have to clean up the air, and we have to deal with public health. People are getting more asthma. People are getting more diseases. The more heat there is, the more people, animals, not animals, the I'm sorry, that is the insects that bring a lot of heavy duty issues that affect people. And it's happening more and more every day. In Canada in Kansas, excuse me, in Paris, there were over 7,000 people died because of heat, and older people who have problems with it.
All right, Kurt Myers.
Yes. I think the biggest problem we face with the global climate change is that it's just that. It's global. Massachusetts makes up 1/10 of 1% of the world's population. The state legislature and the powers that be in Massachusetts, they don't have the power to really take on the larger issue of the global climate change through legislating individual increases in renewable energy use within Massachusetts. When you look at the global problem, you see the issue, the problem countries, if you will, are the developed countries, the large countries in the developing world, such as China and India. And they have such a need for energy, they'll take it from wherever they can get it. So they'll, for the most part, if they're trying to increase their economy to compete with the West and with America, they're going to use whatever's readily available and cheap. And in a lot of cases right now, that's coal. The problem that I see, the solution I think Massachusetts can provide you is that, excuse me, if you want to get the cutting edge of solar technology, you have to go to China to get it. If you want to get the cutting edge of wind technology, you have to go to Northern Europe. And if you want to get the cutting edge of nuclear technology, you have to go to France. To me, there's absolutely no reason why this is not here in Massachusetts, or if not that in the greater level within the United States. And the most important thing that we can do is we have an absolute wealth of human capital here in Massachusetts. We're within a walking distance of Harvard and MIT, among many other great research universities at our disposal. We should be providing, as legislators, we should be providing as many incentives as we can to encourage people at these universities to find the larger solution that can be a great innovation and breakthrough that can affect the globe, not just Massachusetts emissions.
Thank you. Two related local issues, which have been watched with care by the Brookline League of Women Voters and surely all the voters too in Brookline, are the growing problems we have with overcrowding of our public schools and votes that will come up sometime in the coming year on overrides to deal with the school issues and other issues in Brookline. And I'm going to ask right now for both candidates to speak about your beliefs on how the state can provide strong public education support. And I'll start with Kurt Myers this time.
Great. So like I said earlier on in the debate, I think the most important thing that we can do as Massachusetts is focus on where we put our money in education and what is successful. Stanford, Harvard, and MIT did 3 individual studies, and they saw that the charter schools in Massachusetts are the most successful in the country. And beyond that, the charter schools I think this is a proof gap method that we've used in the past, and we've put a cap on. And I think the most important thing we can do, like I've said, is provide alternative options. And I think the state, and answering your state funding questions, I think the state should fund the schools and the models for schools that have proven to work. In Brookline, we have a school system that's working very well in a lot of cases. It's not without its problems, like you referenced. We're having an enrollment issue that we need to face along with the override. But by and large, people in Brookline are very happy with the system. And beyond that, people in Brookline, by nature of us bringing the override up, are willing to put in the expense if it becomes necessary. Not very many people in Brookline will debate that. But on a larger level, within Massachusetts, we need to focus on what is working. And these charter schools are working in these inner schools. And I think we need to remove the cap off of this and provide a true opportunity for every student in our state.
I guess my first comment to make is what was just said. There are some good charter schools in Massachusetts. They do not generally do better than most public schools. There are some schools in which students are high performing, but still do not perform better because of the students who attend the schools. There's a lot of kids that are forced to go to schools that aren't too good. So the charter school doesn't take us. Doesn't take kids who are English language learners, who are likely or unlikely to be a discipline problem. The students that apply are not the lowest income anyway. And if they do take a child, they're quietly counseled out if they don't succeed. Even more troubling than the fact that few students ever apply or are admitted to a charter school, however, is that the fact that the charter school students who do struggle with academic disabilities, language, or behavior are often suspended, expelled, or asked to leave. And that's because we have a system here that measures kids do on tests. They want these children to be back in the public school because they don't want their look at whether the schools are good or not by having kids who don't actually the school. I also think that the schools, as I said before, do not have enough money.
I'd love to respond to that.
All right, let's move to a different topic at this point. A few months ago, the League of Women Voters was a co-sponsor to a very well-attended local program on the theme of complete streets. That program examined many issues related to transportation and the use of the streets in Brookline, and certainly public transportation is of great interest to people who live in Brookline. So I'm going to ask the question, do you support greater spending on transportation infrastructure, the roads, the bridges, mass transit, and bike paths? And if so, how would you raise the money? And I think I'll start again with Kurt Myers.
Sure. So one of the first things that I was ever taught in my life was before you buy something new, you try to fix it first. And so I think before we start spending a whole lot of new money on increasing the or changing the infrastructure, I should say, we should try to go back and try to fix what we already have. The MBTA, like some other programs, does not have the greatest track record of spending their money wisely. In this past year, there was an article that came out by the Globe, quoted the state auditor's office, which said that Kenmore Station and Maverick Station, the Kendall Square Station, went to undergo renovation, and the budget they produced was $80 million. As a result of what they later claimed to be a lack of planning in the beginning, they ended up having to spend another $75 million, $15 million of which came simply because they didn't plan for certain things like elevators or widened stairways, for example, the Kenmore Station for Red Sox games. They didn't plan for that, so they had to retrofit some of the construction they already did. And this is real money. And I think when you have an agency that forgot to talk to the people in the area, I mean, that should have been job one. I mean, the first people you should talk to are the people who actually use the key. And I use it. And we're all happy that it exists. And it for the most part can get from point A to point B in Boston. But too frequently there are delays. This past weekend, the entire B line was closed. I think these are the type of issues that we need to fix. The MBTA should have done in this case, and this is not the only time this has happened. They need to go to the people who use the T first and work out from there. I have 2 ears and 1 mouth, and when I get to Beacon Hill, I'm going to use those proportionally. I think that is what is lacking in a lot of cases in government. And I think this is an example where we need to use the money that we already put into it before we start talking about increasing it.
I'm going to ask you, in light of the publicity that went out about ballot questions.
You didn't
Uh,
get Frank.
Oh, I'm sorry. Excuse me. Criticize it.
Well, I'd like to start by saying that the team, which is part of our transportation problem, was harmed very much by the big hit. The money that, the debt that was owed was put on the team. So, that puts them at a real, deficiency. And they're having trouble with that. And we've given some money this year, a substantial amount of money this year, to have them pave the roads, which make it difficult to drive, it costs, probably 5 times as much to have cars go over a non-fixed road than having a fixed road. So that'll save money for people. I wanted to talk a little bit about bicycles and how they fit into this situation. Obviously, it's cheaper for people to take a bicycle. There are really a lot of problems with the road. There are people getting hook line by bicycle accidents with cars. We've had a hearing about these issues of how can we better can we walk, how can we better get tea, how can we better have the bicycles ride on our streets. We have some very narrow streets, it's very hard to come with a solution. They have a goal to do that, they have to do it under the law. And they've been working hard, I think, to because they have this money now, we're going to be able to fix the streets, fix the bridges, and fix the holes in the streets to stop the cars from getting damaged. So they have not done a great job in the past, but they have some resources now, and I hope they will.
All right. In light of the publicity that went out about ballot questions and the concern people do have about ballot questions, I'm going to ask the candidates not to speak to every single ballot question, but ask each of them to mention if there are particular issues that they have strong views on one of the ballot questions. And Frank Smisek will start with you.
Okay, I'm not a big fan of casinos. I voted against them. It's an industry that requires losers. And all those losers are people who vote against casinos. So I wish we could do other things. There's so many other things we could do in society and build another casino. Two, what about the issue of not allowing people to throw their bottles on the streets? And Brookline has that problem. Everywhere I go, you see containers that were used by things that weren't required to by the law, and they just are thrown away, and they make a big problem in our society. And also, the people who pick that up, like the people who come by here, and the town, if it's not picked up, have a lot of money to pay for that and getting rid of it. And that's something that would not happen if people use their own, were able to pay for their bottle, just buy the bottle and get the 5 cents and take it back. And that's a better way. The third is, Well, the third, I'm blanking on it. That's four.
Gas tax.
Gas tax, yeah, I'm sorry, thank you. We have to get that, we needed the gas tax for 21 years before we did anything to pass the tax. Everybody hates it, but it's all money that's gonna be going to fix up, and that's one source of the money that will fix up the streets. And, that will be, an important, amount of money for the people who run the agency. I think, on the.
Sure. In regards to the bottle bill, you're not currently allowed to litter your bottle anyway. And I think, in a lot of these cases, it's on state highways, or on the side of roads. And I think if you're driving down the street and you want to throw a bottle out the window, I don't know if people are going to not do that because they can get 5 cents. I think what this bill does is it levies a tax on the consumer. I think that's what it needs to be called. I mean, a part of the bill is to raise revenue, and I think that is the definition of what a tax is. I think if we expand that bill, most of that money will, I shouldn't say most, a percentage of that money will not be redeposited, and that will go into the state budget. And I think that is pretty much taxing the consumer here, and that's why I'm opposed to that. But the biggest bill that the biggest ballot question that I see posing the large scale problem in Massachusetts is the casino bill. I agree with Representative Smiley that we should really be cautious before we turn Massachusetts into a casino state. I think casinos put the burden on people who can afford to lose this money the least. And I think it's the wrong step for Massachusetts to put this. It's a regressive measure to make Massachusetts a casino state because it takes people towards the bottom of the income bracket and forces them to put these money. It doesn't force them, but it encourages people to go and spend their money in an environment, like you said, that you are going to lose money by and large. And I think that is the wrong step for the Massachusetts economy. Thank you.
We have a great many questions on many different topics from our audience tonight. Let's look at one that's different from any that we've discussed so far. In 2014, the Massachusetts Bar Association completed an extensive study which found that Massachusetts prosecutors and public defenders are the lowest paid in the country, which has created public safety issues. How would you address this issue in the legislature? Kurt Myers will start with you.
Sure, I think it's very important that we have a very well-paid and well-trained and best-trained prosecutors and lawyers working on behalf of our state. I think that Massachusetts needs to get more towards the national, at least the national average, if not more. I mean, we're a state that prides itself on having, like I said earlier, a lot of education that includes law school. We have a wealth of great attorneys in Massachusetts. One of whom might be on the stage here right now. And I think we should pay these public servants for the job that they're doing. It's crucial and critical work, and I believe that Massachusetts needs to get this higher. Now, where does this money come from? You see in the Massachusetts budget that it's not always the most well spent dollars. This is an area where this is money that really goes one way and that's up, and then it's good for our legal system to have the best quality attorneys depending on our citizens. So I would encourage us to increase our spending.
Well, my feeling is that the most important people who need money for when they go to court and prosecution are poor people. We've cut the money for poor people. We used to have a program for that. I've worked for 34 years in a program that paid for that, helping poor people. But we have a lot less of that now. So to me, that's the biggest priority. I have not seen that quote about we have rush now, or we have problems now. I have not heard that before. The if that's the case, we do have to do more for those people because, let me just say again, we've got $4 billion in 2007, 2008, 2009, and we haven't made that up yet. And we're about $1 billion short. And there's only so many things that we can fund. And I support having the best lawyers that we can have. They should be picked by people better if they're not as good. But I think that the money, if we need it, we truly need it, I think it should come from our budget. And next time we have our budget, that should be an issue that we should address.
We had a related question. Oh, I lost my question here. This question has to do with sentencing in Massachusetts. As a legislator, would you retain or eliminate the current mandatory minimum sentencing for low impact crime?
I'll start with the word absolutely. The fact is that a lot of people go to jail for issues that are not major issues, and they have to stay in jail. Many of the jails are not good. They don't have programs for people. They can't improve themselves. They can't improve the people who allow parties to convince them because they don't have any programs that can help them. So, yes, I think that there are too many people getting stuck in the prisons. There are mandatory laws also about people who kill other people, and there can be mandatory laws there. I don't reject it there. And people who commit a certain kind of crime, like terrible murder, they have mandatory sentences, and they can't get probation until a certain amount of time, and until that time runs out. So I certainly don't want these kinds of mandatory sentences for people with small convictions.
Sure. You said absolutely. I'll say 100%. This is something that needs to be reformed in our criminal justice system. Many petty drug offenders much more closely resemble victims than hardened criminals. And I think these are people who we need to take in and help them with the issues that they face. A lot of them face addiction. Some of them through no fault of their own. Some of them who hit hard times and end up as a drug addict. That does not necessarily make them a hardened. In fact, in most cases, it does not make them a hardened criminal. Like you said, people who kill other people. I think those need to be really are in a lot of cases, very much so distinctly separate. One nation in the world, Portugal, about 15 years back had one of the worst drug addiction rates in the EU, and they had mandatory minimums very similar to the American justice system, and they very radically got rid of all of them for drug offenses. And instead of sending these people to prison, they sent them to rehab. And now, and certainly now, 5 years later, actually, after they passed this law, Portugal has the lowest number of addicts in the entire European Union. I think these are the things we should be focusing on. We should be trying to help people who have a problem rather than just throwing them into the system that when they leave, they're not going to be able to have a more difficult time getting a job, and then that puts them back into a cycle, a negative downward cycle. And that is the central problem.
We have several questions that came forth from the audience, which are addressed to particular ones of the candidates. And I'm going to ask a couple of those, and we will ask the person who is addressed, but we'll allow the other candidate also to express his views on that subject. And we're going to start with a question that's addressed to Frank Smyzik, which it goes like this, it's a short question. What was your role in passing the Medical Marijuana Act?
I filed the bill 6 times. And we finally got the bill passed. I think there's a lot of discussion going on in town about where they're putting the medical marijuana. But you were saying something.
The questioner says, what was your role in passing the Medical Marijuana Act?
I was continuing.
Okay.
I think that we should fight some of the arguments that have been made because they're not accurate. And some will, one I've seen less, which is Article 12 in the town's group, is a way of not allowing any to be enacted in Boston. It's stopping all, and I've been fighting that. I've written letters to the town and told them why I think it's a mistake to do what is being argued in that case. You forget, and we always forget, and this is why I do it, is there are people that really need it. And that's the issue. There are older people who have lots of pain that this has worked for. And there are people, even younger people sometimes, who have a disease that hurts and can't make them have a decent life. So, to me, the argument is, let's help those people. There's a way that we can do it. It's shown to be successful. There are 16 states now that are doing it. We put restrictions so that children will not be part of it. And I think I'm very proud of being working on that.
And Kurt, would you like to express your view on the Medical Marijuana Act?
Sure. I certainly think that there is merit and a true need for certain people in the community who, as Tanya said, who have either a disease or condition that makes medical marijuana perfectly real and acceptable treatment for. What I think we need to focus on is the appropriate and responsible zone. And like you pointed out, the main discussion right now we're having in Brookline is the location of where we're going to put it. There's a big controversy about whether we should put it in whether the former Brookline Bank or not. The important thing we need to realize and take into account, and Brookline voted resoundingly for medical marijuana, is how we're going to keep this to being a medical facility. And I think that's a perfectly reasonable argument, and I think that needs to be addressed. So you look at what Marty Walsh is doing in Boston. He's a recovering alcoholic, and he is doing everything in his power to keep it out of Boston. And because he has personal experience of what these having to be around, and how that can affect the community, how it can affect young people, how it can affect people who are struggling with addiction. All things we need to take into account while also making sure that we're taking care of the people who truly need it. And I think putting it in a central location where there's tons of foot traffic doesn't address the concerns. There are places in Brookline that were on Boylston Street that was really far away from commercial zones that make it not only less foot traffic people to walk by and see it, but also it's a little bit further away from the public transportation, so that it will discourage people coming from areas like Boston, which we are obviously very close to, from coming out and using this dispensary if Marty Walsh is successful in keeping it out of Boston. Again, I think the medical marijuana facilities have their merits. We need to do everything we can to do it responsibly and zone everything properly.
We have a question that came forth that's addressed to Kurt Myers, and it goes as follows. In 2013, you wrote an article that attacked almost any form of gun control. In light of the continuing epidemic of gun violence. Do you stand by the comments you made in that article?
So that article, I did not stand against every form of gun control. What I said is I support the local decision. In Brookline, I think we have a very good formula for how to issue gun licenses in our community. So Massachusetts law basically refers to local police departments and ultimately the police commissioner of the town as to who gets a license to carry. So the firearm ID, which is basically to buy a hunting rifle, that's on a real issue basis. So as long as you don't have a criminal history, you granted that license. But a license to carry, so such as a handgun or a large capacity rifle, that is on a may issue basis, which means that the police commissioner, police chief can decide really at his discretion who is able to do this, or sorry, who is able to be granted one of these licenses. And I think there's really nobody better than the police, the people who are in the community, who know what the threats are and are interacting with these the applicants on a personal basis. They run fingerprint checks, they do background checks, and I think these are things that are very important. You look at, you point to the epidemic of gun violence, and these are in areas where, for the most part, as long as you have a valid license, you can walk into a gun shop, do a quick background check on a computer, and walk out with a gun 10 minutes. I don't think anybody's advocating for that, and I certainly not. I think what we have in Brookline is reasonable. It is refers to people who are paid to protect us, and I think that is where the power needs to lie in this issue.
Prince Isaac, would you care to comment on that issue of gun control?
Yes, as you may or may not know, we passed a law this year on gun control laws. And we gave the right to the police chief to look at certain characteristics that are in the law, and if they don't meet those characteristics, they don't get a long gun or a handgun. There are issues about trying to discover whether someone has a mental health problem, and they want it done. Background checks have to be available for all private sales. To keep some of the guns from moving around. I guess the big purpose for me and the big view I have is that there are too many guns in our society right now. Too many. The bill also has background checks for employees of gun stores. Increased penalties for invalid firearm licenses if the license has expired and the holder has applied for renewal. Receipts for license renewal applications to protect gun owners. Increased penalties for crimes committed with a firearm. Mandatory tracing of all guns used in crimes to standardized law enforcement and suicide prevention measures. Suicide prevention stopping. It's stronger than the national law. It's something that we've done very well. I'm very proud to be part of it. And we have a lot of restrictions, and hopefully it will work. We'll see.
All right. Our audience tonight includes students from Brookline High School. And we have a question that comes from one of the high school students. It's very much a local kind of concern. And may be a little bit difficult for the state representatives to actually attack, but we're going to ask your opinion. The question goes as follows. We often call Brookline diverse. It's not at all racially diverse. What do we do to not only make Brookline schools more diverse, but also increase the number of teachers of color? And we'll start again with Prince Isaac.
Well, the issue of having more poverty people and more people with different skin are difficult. the city of Brookline has a problem because we have, one, so many children who live here, people move here. And the prices are going up in houses, and people have, the only people who come here are people who can afford it. The other issue is Metco. I was a member of the board of Metco. I've filed many laws to help increase the amount of money that goes to Metco. But it's been worth it. People in Metco, the young people in Metco, have all passed the test this year that schools have. And this is the first time they've done that. So they are with us, they are with a bunch of children who have good practical ways of learning, and there are lots of students who do this learning, and it's a good way for kids who don't have the power or the money to go to a school like Brookline, and they learn very well there. These kids are doing better and doing very well. So I like Metco. I will hope they will not get rid of it. And I think it does well for Boston. So for the kids who go and for the kids who are there, they learn more about diversity.
Sure. I believe I heard a statistic from someone who sends their kids to Brookline High. There are over 60 languages of origin spoken at Brookline High. I think this speaks to a few things. One, the diversity of culture from Brookline. A lot of them are from Europe. But the Metco program is without a doubt a beneficial program, not only for the actual Metco students, of course, but also for the students of Brookline. And I think, whoever asked this question tonight got straight to that point. The diversity within the school provides, much. The point of the school is goes much beyond the classroom, and you learn. You're surrounded by people with different cultures, different faiths, different backgrounds. A lot more about the world and about what you're potentially going into than you will just from your math class or history class. I think that's a very important thing to fix. I don't think Metco is going anywhere in Brookline. It's overwhelmingly supported by the people, the voters here, and the parents here most supportive. In terms of my only concern with Metco is that within their mission statement, they say that their goal is to diversify the receiving business. And I don't think that should be the first priority of a program like Metco. I think the first priority should be increasing the quality of education for the students who are on the exporting side of it. Obviously, that both things happen naturally, but I think the Metco program needs to take a look at what their overarching goal is and put that in their mission statement first. That their goal is to increase the quality of education for the students.
Another question that has to do with a matter of taxing. The question goes like this. Would you consider a carbon tax for Massachusetts? We'll start on this one with Kurt Myers.
Yes, so this is a tax that basically, in a lot of ways, can tax you. Basically, if you drive your car X amount of miles, you get taxed on how much you emit, similar to your home. If you use your energy, if you have a higher energy bill, you get taxed on how much output you're getting. Again, the problem that I see with this is it basically puts a lot of pressure on the consumers of Massachusetts and the people within our state, and will not affect the larger climate problem that we face, which is a global problem, like I've said. I think if you charge people X amount of dollars for their carbon output, you're really just taxing them. This is not a grand solution to fix global warming. We don't have the numbers to do that within Massachusetts. This is really aimed at taxing the individuals, and so I'm against this. I don't think that we should be focused on taking money away from our individuals and from families. In a lot of cases, who can't afford to nickel and dime it. If we're going to have policies that stand the grounds of reducing our carbon emissions into the environment, I think on a much larger scale and not a relatively small and humble bill.
Well, it's a little bit hard for me to answer this because we don't know what process they're going to use to get the carbon tax. I've seen a lot of them, and all in all, I'm not going to say which one I really like. It's complicated, but I do feel that a carbon tax is warranted. Look, when we have garbage in the town, we have somebody to pick it up and we pay them to do that. For that ourselves. And carbon is dirt. Dirt in our breathing, dirt in our land. Having a way of having a tax that would help get rid of that is, I think, extremely important. Makes a lot of sense. I think Kurt before said something about why do it in Massachusetts, because it's not going to really change anywhere else. I guess I disagree with that because there's so many examples of things change when things change nationally when they do things locally in states. And I think there's a shot that would become a broad issue that could be used nationally. And there's lots of examples of things starting here and going forward in other states and then being accepted nationally. So I wouldn't mean that. So again, I think the carbon tax makes sense.
We have a question from the audience which addresses a very specific part of that campaign financing set of ideas, and it goes like this. Would either of you support the May Day Pact? The pact developed in Cambridge to abolish all super PACs, and if you were elected, support a law abolishing all super PACs. Kurt, we'll go to you again.
Sure. So I believe this is Professor Lessig's super PAC, and it's a very interesting idea. Having a super PAC that basically supports candidates who are opposed to super PACs. I certainly support this PAC. I believe that if there's an organization that has X amount of dollars and they believe in the cause, in this case, getting rid of super PACs in general, even if you are one, that you have every right to do that. And I think that I don't think I would support getting rid of independent expenditures on the whole, because for better or worse, the Supreme Court decided that if you want to spend your money and you believe that you should or that you can make a difference with a contribution of yours to that is speech according to the United States Supreme Court. So I don't support the philosophy behind the super PAC, but I understand the argument of this argument. I understand his argument. And I think this is something that is ripe for debate in our political climate, and I encourage
it. I encourage it. I believe that it's an important thing we should do. I mentioned that before when I talked about how all the groups have so much money. It's different than allowing people to give money. We have limitations on that. Somebody can only give $500 or $200, depending on what kind of issue you're talking about. So, when people register, people have to file with OCPF and say who gave them money if it was over $200 or $500. So that enables us to know who's really giving the money. It's not people who don't say who they are or what they do. They're just giving you money. Maybe it's the same people giving you 20 different things. And they have a lot of money, like the Koch brothers. So I think it's a good idea and agree that we really have to address the problem of PACs that are really starting to change our society and our voting patterns.
We have a question that addresses a very pesky problem in Brookline. That's on quite a different topic from ones that we've heard about this evening, and this one goes like this. Can the state legislature do anything about the turkeys in Brookline? We are told that the state prohibits transporting of the turkeys out of the town. So it would appear to be a state issue, they say. Fix noisy ones, start with you.
Well, I've been contacted by many people in Brookline who've had the problem with
With the
these
turkeys.
People leave their stuff out, they take it away, food, things like that, garbage cans. But worse than that, they're scary. They have, in the middle of a road and they don't move even if a car comes. It's pretty nasty. They're in the wrong place. They should be somewhere else. And I went to state and the appropriate agencies, and everyone told me and told the people that we can't do anything unless the turkey hates your children or does something dangerous. And that's the only way we can do something. There's been a couple of turkeys killed when something like that happened. But it's very simple. They do not allow us to remove those anyway, or to harm them in any way under the present law.
Kurt, would you care to weigh in on turkeys?
Yeah, I think these turkeys are they're endangering their own health as we get a little bit too close to Thanksgiving here. But you know, my throughout the campaign, whenever I've been outside, especially as it's come more into the fall, myself or people who've been knocking doors for me have had turkeys start following them around. You start walking through a neighborhood and there'll be like a little trail of turkeys following behind you. So I certainly have experienced this problem. But I guess if you can't prove that these turkeys have caused irreparable harm, we're not going to be able to kick them out, I guess.
We have some other questions that were asked to a particular candidate, and I'm going to ask this time for only that candidate to respond to the question. And the first one is for Frank Smiza, and it goes like this. Earlier this year, Representative Enriquez was convicted of domestic violence. In an interview with the Boston Globe, you did not say he should resign. Why?
I said he should go to jail. I didn't say he should resign. He had to resign. He was told by the speaker to resign. I like the guy. He's a nice young man. And whatever he did was wrong, and he has to have a penalty for it. But we hadn't seen that side of him, obviously. And he worked very well in the legislature. He was learning. He was doing very well. And all I said was I like him. And but he got what he deserved.
Okay, a question for Kurt. This one is about yourself. Would you tell us where you go to school, and if you are a full-time student, how do you propose to have sufficient time to fulfill the important duties of state representative?
If I would like to do the question. So I go to school at Union College in upstate New York. It's right outside Albany, in Schenectady. Anybody knows the area. Obviously, this is a question that comes up very frequently on the campaign trail. People love to know, or would like to know, what I plan to do. First of all, what I was doing this fall to go back and forth to campaign and fulfill my time as a full-time student at Union College. But also, they ask, if I'm elected, how am I going to manage that? And the answer is, I've already spoken to Babson College. They said that if I'm elected, I can finish my 4 credits on a part-time basis and graduate at the same time. I'm, like I said, 4 credits short of graduating at the end of this term. And I will fulfill them at Babson College and graduate on time in the spring to do part-time classes.
All right. This question is a nice one as we move toward the end of the evening. You seem to agree on a lot of issues. Can you each highlight one issue where you stand out from your opponent? Thanks, Isaac.
Well, we haven't talked much. We haven't had any real meetings before this. I have looked at his website, and he's said some nasty things about me. But I don't know, that's not the way,
Speak into the microphone, please.
I'm sorry. That's not having a debate on it or anything, so I don't remember all of the things he said in his, but many of them were things that just didn't make sense. I didn't care about kids, or I didn't have any ideas about education, and I spent too much time on global warming and climate change. So we disagree.
Well, I'm not familiar with actually any of those quotes that you just pulled off from my website. So if you like to send them to me later, I would love to take a look.
I'm sure you know.
I don't think I've ever said that you don't care about kids or about education. Well, and if you've heard that somewhere, I'll tell you right now, I don't think that. I believe, like I said in the beginning, we both care about education, and we definitely differ on what we want to do to implement reform in Massachusetts. I certainly think that providing school choice is the most important thing we can do. And like I said earlier, and Representative, you disagree with what I said, but there have been 3 independent studies by some of the top universities in the country that have said that Massachusetts charter schools have been some of the most successful in the entire country. And I think by not removing not voting to lift the cap on this, which you did, you are hurting these students. There are 40,000 students in Massachusetts who are on a waiting list for a charter school. And by saying that you don't want to lift this cap, you are telling them and you're telling their parents that they cannot go to a school that they want to go to. They cannot seek the education advantage that they want to have. And I think this is a problem that we're facing in our legislature. I think we need to put the #1 emphasis on the experience and the success of the children in our schools.
All right. Many people have expressed interest in the audience tonight about support for charter schools and the problem of charter schools, which some questioners feel pull funding from public education, which they feel is underfunded. So let's go back to that just a little bit. Frank Smisek, do you want to add thoughts about that?
Well, I think that charter schools, as I said before, have lots of problems. They don't allow children who have problems in school. They push them out. They push a lot, so nobody knows how many children have been successful in charter schools. They also are, I think, overstating the issue of how many kids can go to or waiting to go to charter schools. Those numbers have been put by the charter schools, but they do really some crazy things. So if a child has a second language and is not American language yet, they don't take that. But that children, and there's proof of that. The children who struggle with academics and disabilities and language or behavior are often suspended, expelled, or asked to leave. And that's a problem. Charter schools have worked. I've been to a charter school. I've been to 2 charter schools. I really didn't like it because they're so militaristic. It's really tough on the kids. Everything is down, and that's their strategy. So I wouldn't mind want my child going there. She went to to the Brookline schools, and she had a wonderful education there. We have many, many good public schools. And it seems that because Boston has troubles, it seems to be changed to all the other communities. There are some other bad schools, but most of the things that have gone on in charter schools has been the result of helping Boston. And I'm still not a fan of charter schools. The ones that are there, some have succeeded, others have not. So I think the public schools, the charter schools are also to set examples for us and set ways of learning better. And they haven't done that. It's really a battle now to see who can get the most charter schools in the state. And it's essentially private, and there's a lot of private money going to that. And I think they're trying to change public education in Boston and some other places.
There are many different concerns about funding.
Do I have one
Oh,
that?
did you not get to?
No, I didn't.
Sorry.
Well, first of all, I want to be clear about it. Charter school is a public school. It receives public funding. You can enroll your kid if there's only 100 spots and there's 120 kids, you enter a lottery, and that is only because there's only there are 20 kids in this scenario that don't get to go because there aren't enough charter schools to fulfill the needs of the parents who want to send their kids there. Now you gave the example. You supported the Brookline Public School and you were happy to send your daughter there, and she had a good experience, and that is the case of a lot of people in the Commonwealth. The good news is, let's say there was a charter school within Brookline, you would have the opportunity to choose if you wanted to send your daughter to Brookline High or Charter School X. And that's the point I'm trying to make. If you want to send your kid to just traditional public school, feel free. I want parents to have the option to feel free to send their kids to charter schools. I want them to have this choice. This is a critical point. No one is suggesting that we are forcing every kid to go to charter schools. We're talking about a choice for the parents. That is the most important issue here. And by saying that we are basically by shooting down lifting the cap on charter schools, you are telling these 40,000 students and their parents that the government knows better where to send their kids than their own parents do. And I think that is the wrong message that we're sending. And I think that is what we need to address.
We have a somewhat different concern about funding for schools and funding for an activity in the local school system. How would you achieve full state funding for special education costs, including transportation, which is not always absorbed by the local school systems? Go ahead, Frank Smiley.
I think this year, one of the things we did was file the 1995, 2015 budget, and in that budget we had money for children's being able to use transportation. Other problems. One of the things I did when I was the chairman, vice chairman of the school committee, was that I made sure that all the schools, and Jim Walsh, who was the superintendent and a wonderful man, I learned a lot from him. Those schools have to be even within the community. You don't have one great school, one lousy school. And what you do is if people want to go to school in Brookline, they go to the school based upon where they live. And that's important for making the kids grow and make the program even better. There are other issues. One of the things I did in Brookline, and every time they have a battle because they don't have enough money, they call me and tell me, well, we're not going to cut your music program in Brookline School. That's something that I really get taking credit for. And I haven't been in there for 14 years, but it's still an issue in the schools, in the curriculum, and we shouldn't have a more reduced curriculum.
Yes, so on this issue, on the funding side, on the special education side, we do have a problem here of a lot of schools not being able to deal with all the range of special needs that we face, and in some more extreme cases, we end up having to send students who, for example, if there are students who are dyslexic in some communities and they don't feel like their public school can sufficiently provide the support that they need, the district is then put on the tab to send that student to a school like the Carroll School, and this all often has a much higher cost per student compared to having a student in the public school in their district. Now, this is obviously very important. We need to make sure that, like I said, every student, regardless of where or what their needs are, has access to proper education. But like I said earlier, the first thing we should focus on is to fix it first. We need to provide more personnel and funding to individual schools, public schools, to deal with a wider range of learning disabilities. And I think this is also an example of where, in the future, we need to make sure that our local schools have the internal means within the same school building as everybody else to deal with every student, really wherever they fall in terms of their needs.
We are almost out of time this evening, and we have two questions from the audience, which I think will make very nice questions to ask in conclusion. The first one is quite a personal question. What has been your most meaningful community involvement besides running for being a state rep? Kurt, we'll start with you.
Sure. One of the reasons why I've become so passionate about the education issue is because ever since I was 10 years old, I volunteered at a school in Dorchester called the Epiphany School. This is a tuition-free private school. It's an Episcopalian school that brings in students from the Dorchester neighborhood who basically the only entry requirement is that you have your family qualifies for welfare and food stamps. And so they take in these low-income students, and they've had absolutely remarkable results. They get their funding from a variety of different ways, some traditional fundraising and some for more basically tapping into education groups. But my involvement here, it started off when I was 10 years old, going with my church and cooking dinner for the students there every week. And then as I got a little bit older, it goes up to grade 8. When I was in high school, I started tutoring these kids and really just seeing the passion that these students have for learning. And in an area where the local schools may not have provided them the same opportunity as a school like Epiphany, which opens at 7 a.m. for students and closes at 8 p.m. This is a school that provides an environment to really help these kids, work their way up out of the low income bracket that they're in, give them the opportunity to succeed going forward in life. And that is how I became passionate about this issue. And that is, to me, the proudest thing that I've been able to do in my relatively young life.
Well, I kind of answered this question a little bit before, what I did in the schools and what I did to help children. And what I did was serve for 9 years as a vice chair and member of the Brookline School Committee. I learned a lot. I have asked me to come to the State House to give them a little bit of discussion about what I do and what they want to do when they get older. So I enjoy it, and the teachers all call at least once a year for each of the classes, and we have a discussion. I was very, very interested in the schools. I still am. I still felt that in Brookline, we cared about the kids. We tried to deal with the kids, and we didn't let them. Sure, as my opponent said, there are special places for kids with special needs. There are also special needs, and actually one of them, autism, is we put a lot of money into autism this year, in 2015. We recognize that, we know that, the legislature knows that. It's very hard for these children to succeed, and we have to find ways for that to happen.